This episode is brought to you by Starbucks. Smooth, bright, deliciously crafted. Introducing Starbucks Sansera Blend, their smoothest, brightest coffee yet. It's a new kind of light roast, one that's packed with so much flavor, it shines no matter how you brew it. So go ahead and try it hot, iced, black, or with a splash of creamer. Visit athome.starbucks.com/Sansera-blend-coffee to bring Starbucks Sansera Blend home.
Today on CityCast Boise. Big changes are coming to the West End. The College of Western Idaho is teaming up with a private developer to bring its long-stalled Boise campus to life, sidestepping a major hurdle: voter approval. It's a bold move, so we're exploring what kind of ripple effect it could have on the neighborhood. It's Monday, July 7th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Diving into this new development with me is Idaho Statesman reporter Nick Rosenberger. Thanks so much for being here today, Nick.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
So for people who maybe don't spend much time in the West End, could you paint a picture of what it's like right now? What's the vibe? What's the area look like when you're driving through?
Yeah, so when we're talking about the West End, that's the West End of downtown. And if you've been through that area, I'm sure you've seen just pretty big vacant lots. You know, you've got cement lots with weeds growing out of them. You've got some lots that are filled with grass, and then you got that big lot that people have been using for parking for Quinn's Pond. And it is kind of a funky area, I guess, since there's not many places like it in Boise where, you know, you've got these large lots that are just undeveloped. Most of the lots in downtown Boise are getting developed, but this area is still kind of the same as it was maybe like even 10 years ago.
So Nick, how is this area still like this? I mean, there's lots of not quite developed areas of Boise, but this one's fairly centrally located. Who owns these lots? And was there previously a plan for them, or has this area just not really ever been looked at for development?
Yeah, so I think this area has been on developers' radars for a pretty long time. Back in 2016, developers were saying that they really hoped this area could flourish over the next decade. Fast forward to 2025, almost 10 years on, and it's still pretty much the same. And there is a lot of reasons for that. You know, the lots are owned by several different folks. So the College of Western Idaho owns that big lot between Whitewater Park Boulevard and Main Street. Boise developer Roundhouse owns another couple lots. Eugene, Oregon-based DeChase Mixis owns another lot. And then there's a lot owned by Cal Pacific, which is a California-based developer. And a lot of these guys had really big plans for these lots. Multiple hundreds of units of apartments, grocery stores, coffee shops. College of Western Idaho has been planning a really big campus there. And a lot of what's happened with those plans is just poor market conditions, to be honest. You know, during the pandemic, developers got really excited about building, but then, you know, interest rates went up, labor costs went up, materials went up, and all of this was happening too as Micron has been building their $15 billion expansion in southeast of the Boise airport, and Meta is building their data center out by Kuna, and that's really constrained labor as well. There's not enough tradespeople for all of the development happening in the Treasure Valley. And so all of these factors have kind of been pushing against developments in this area. And these are really large projects. They're really large lots. And there's, more risk with that sort of thing. And so that's some of the pieces about why for most of these things, they haven't really come to fruition yet.
Well, it seems like after years of stalled plans, starts and stops, it seems like change is on the horizon with the new CWI project. What all does that project entail, and how could it reshape the future in this part of Boise?
That was a long time coming. The College of Western Idaho bought that lot. It's a 10-acre lot at 3150 West Main Street. It was the former Bob Rice Ford car dealership, if you've been here for a while. They bought that lot, I believe, back in 2015 with plans to build a new campus there. Currently, the College of Western Idaho is spread out between a whole lot of leased buildings throughout Boise, and they wanted to kind of centralize everything. They went out for a voter-approved bond, and voters shot that down. And so the College of Western Idaho, especially with these poor market conditions, kind of had to rethink the project. And so they joined forces with the developer and are basically planning on building a college building, and then townhouses, apartments, a hotel, retail space, and a parking garage, all on that 10-acre lot there.
Well, and this development is different in that it's a public-private partnership between CWI and Alquist. And that both makes this unique, but also potentially could have some risks or is different than other developments. And what makes that so different?
Yeah, so I think the key, public-private partnership. So CWI, they get some funding through taxes and whatnot, and student fees, and they have their own method of having funds, and they do have their own building fund for construction and stuff like that. So they're a public entity because they get some tax money. And then the private side of it is, you've got a private developer, Tommy Alquist, who their company is called Alquist, but it was formerly known as Ball Ventures Alquist. They're a private development company, and they're bringing in all this business. And basically what it does is it allows CWI to build this thing without having to go back to taxpayers and asking for more money. Which is the stumbling block they had the first time, is that they couldn't get the vote approved to build this thing. And basically what Alquist is doing with all of these businesses is a lot of that, like the income from those businesses, from that hotel, from that townhouses and apartments, would go to help fund the development of this project. So that's kind of where the private and the public partnership comes in, and you kind of have these two forces working together to kind of do this thing without needing to go back to taxpayers and asking for more money.
Is this potentially a formula for the future? I mean, this isn't the only project where Idaho taxpayers have not funded a levy or a bill or some kind of a tax fund for a building like a school or a college. Is this potentially a formula where universities could bypass voters and just begin working with private developers?
They could, yeah. I mean, public-private partnerships are used everywhere, to be honest. There's plenty of public entities out there that can't raise the funds to do something just by themselves, and so they might have to call in help from the private market.
Are you looking for a way to keep your kids challenged, engaged, and genuinely excited to learn? This summer, trade screen time for real-world wonder. Summit Innovations is where Boise kids of all ages explore through immersive hands-on STEM camps designed to spark creativity, curiosity, and critical thinking. Your child will engage in hands-on experiments, coding, and play designed all around the theme that changes each week, from space exploration to AI to robotics, engineering, circuits, Minecraft, and more. These camps are aligned with next-generation science standards, and they prioritize low student-to-instructor ratios to ensure every student feels supported and included. Summer camps will be running throughout the summer, and the fall schedule for day-off school camps and after-school activities will be released on July 21st. You can check out both at summitinnovationlab.com and grab your child's spot before they're gone. That's summitinnovationlab.com.
I'm always looking for ways to show my cat how much I love her. And with Fancy Feast gems, I can pamper her whenever I want with a savory gravy on top of a gourmet mousse pâté. The pyramid shape makes serving simple, so all I have to do is peel and plate to make mealtime feel extra fancy. And with 2 entrees in every pack, it's easy to turn every day into the extraordinary. Fancy Feast gems.
A big part of this development is going to be housing and retail space. What's the vision for that part of the project?
Yeah. So, originally when CWI had proposed, their vision for this lot, the whole thing was going to be their campus. Instead, they shrank it down to one building, and the rest would be devoted to these other uses. So, directly north of the CWI building, you would have residential and retail. So what that looks like is 220 apartments and townhomes. And then to the west of that, you also have retail and residential, and you'd have a parking structure as well. You'd have and then right along the Boise River Greenbelt, you would have a future hotel as well. There's also something in the files called a wellness pad, which I believe has to do with like a health and wellness type of business. But I think that's a kind of newer addition. I'm not entirely sure. So you have kind of this whole, I guess, district of uses. You have the college, you have the 125 room hotel, you have 20,000 square feet of retail space, and then 640 stall parking garage. So it's not just a college campus now; it is this business district right on the Boise River Greenbelt. With easy access to Garden City, with easy access to the Boise Connector, and also easy access to downtown Boise as well.
And what kind of housing is being developed in this district? I'm assuming a good part of it would be to cater to students who might be attending CWI, but is there going to be mixed development, mixed types of housing, or are they really going to have just a uniform type of housing development?
I think certainly if students at CWI wanted to live there, I'm sure they would be more than happy to have CWI students there. I don't think it's marketed specifically towards CWI students, though. I think it's to make this kind of thing pencil out, it's likely going to be market rate apartments. The bottom line for developers, and a lot of people have mixed opinions about them. They're the villains in a lot of movies and TV shows, but at the same time, they have to stay in business and make their projects pencil out. So I don't imagine these would be affordable housing or necessarily marketed towards students, but rather kind of still filling that need for housing that Treasure Valley lacks pretty significantly right now.
But it sounds like it'll be more high density housing. We're not going to see like a whole bunch of, single family Harris Ranch type homes, right?
No. These would be townhouses and apartments mostly.
And how many are they going to be building? And do you think it will be enough that it will have any kind of an impact on our housing crisis? Maybe not, the affordability crisis, but will increase access to housing and could maybe impact affordability of the area?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky thing. I think, any increase in housing is probably a good bet. There's some debate around developers that maybe the downtown area is oversaturated with apartments right now. We just saw the Arthur get built, which is that really big new glass building in downtown. And those are a lot of apartments to hit the market at once. And I think a lot of developers are waiting to see what they call get absorbed into the market. And I think a lot of developers are kind of waiting to see, what the market is like once some of those get filled up, because there is a risk of overbuilding apartments when people may want, a single family house instead. Obviously we do have a pretty significant housing shortage here. And I think any units that hit the market is going to probably, help fill supply for that. But it is kind of tricky in trying to figure out what people really want. Do they want apartments? Do they want townhouses? Do they want single family houses? Do they want duplexes or triplexes? And I think as we build out, I think we'll kind of see where things lay. But it could help, I guess, catalyze development in that West End area as well. Some developers, Chase Mixes for one, I know that they're waiting to see, those apartments at the Arthur get absorbed, and obviously with the CWI project as well, before they build their own apartment project in that area. And they're kind of waiting for that market to even out and finances to look a little bit better before jumping in that.
Yeah, and we've seen that in other neighborhoods around Boise, where once a big project starts being developed, it does seem to catalyze or lead to growth in other projects once developers and different groups see how the community responds to it. So I guess I'm curious, have neighbors or community groups weighed in on the River District, and what kind of a reaction are you hearing about it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think a lot of people see the vacant lots and they want something bigger. For me personally, I'd probably rather see buildings than just vacant lots with weeds growing out of them. And I think a lot of people connect with that as well. Obviously, what actually gets built, people generally have opinions on.
That's right. And Boise's not quiet about how they feel about things.
No, definitely not. As soon as something is announced, if a developer releases a rendering, people have opinions about how it looks. Maybe it's too modern, maybe it's too tall, maybe it's too small. Some people, maybe want that to be single family housing. There's a development in the West End that was proposed, another townhouse project. That one would be, I believe, 21 townhouses, 3-story townhouses on a vacant lot. And I know some people, were maybe hoping that would be a dog park or a little park. And instead it might turn into more townhouses. So I think there is different ideas for what people want. But I think overall, I do think people are ready to see that area and those vacant lots kind of turn into something that could be beneficial for the community.
So what's the timeline where we could expect this project to be finished, and what's the expected cost?
Yeah, so the CWI project, the River District, I believe the academic building itself was expected to cost $38 million, which is definitely a hefty sum. I'm not sure about the overall costs for the whole development, but I do know that the CWI building itself was $38 million. And as for expected timeline, they're hoping to open for fall of 2026.
Oh, that's pretty soon.
Yeah, it's coming up quick. And honestly, there's another apartment building just down the road going up on that could be going up on a vacant lot, and I believe they're hoping to be opening, sometime between fall 2026 and early 2027 as well. If everything goes right, that is. There's been plenty of promises before that haven't panned out, and development timelines are always kind of squishy because there's a million different things that could go wrong with them. So, take it with a grain of salt, but potentially we could be seeing some changes coming up pretty soon.
Nick, we've had you on a lot to talk about Boise growth, and Boise has grown significantly in the last decade. Do you think this development reflects where our city is going with this kind of growth?
Potentially. How cities approach growth is pretty specific to the city and the culture of the city. And Boise decided to focus on density and infill development and, building up rather than out. I'm sure everybody remembers the super contentious Don't Upzone Boise and the zoning code rewrite a few years ago. People were really, really passionate about that, and they let the city officials know their opinions about things. And as much as people hated parts of it, the city is focused on building up and developing, I guess, inward. So a lot of that means filling these vacant lots and making sure that we use the space that we have in a responsible way. And other cities maybe are focused on a different method. Some cities want large single family homes and they don't want apartments or townhouses. And that is entirely up to them. And this is the direction I think that Boise leaders at least are hoping to go. So, even if it's an unpopular choice, I think this project could give us a glimpse of what things could look like in the years to come.
Well, Nick, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to break this down and explain more about what we can expect in Boise's West End.
Yeah, always happy to be here.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to tell your friends about the show. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another great local story. Catch you then.